It ought to have turned into a disaster. At sunrise, a $12 billion chemical complex buzzed, the town's economic lifeline in its very pulse. Then out of nowhere, a rupture, not an explosion, not a fireball, just a crack. A lone, jagged fissure sliced the tank wall, steam hissing into the dawn air as if the earth itself were issuing a warning. But that wasn't ruin. This was salvation. I'm Daniel Whitaker. For 15 years, I've chased industrial near misses, the kind headlines skim past. The ones that wind up in government reports nobody bothers to read. This is what they missed. In this video, you'll witness the instant a crack turned into a lifeline. You'll hear the scientists explain how it could have been far worse. And you'll meet the town that didn't merely survive, it turned a near catastrophe into a safety blueprint. Source: the Orange County Register first reported a 2-inch crack in a decade-old chemical storage tank at a Garden Grove plant, sparking an immediate safety review. 10 years of pressure, corrosive fumes, and vibration, all held together by a single seam. That seam gave way at 6:17 a.m. Drone footage catches it in eerie silence, the plant's industrial district bathed in dawn light. Then a flash, a hairline fracture widening under the weight of 50,000 pounds of chemicals. No alarm sounded, no emergency siren, just steam rising like a ghost from the tank's side. Within seconds, the plant's remote sensors screamed. Data spikes lit up control room screens in Sacramento, 40 miles away. Lab techs leaned in, staring at pressure curves that should have spelled doom, but the doom never came. Source: the U.S. Chemical Safety Board's investigation later confirmed what the sensors saw: a longitudinal crack acting as a pressure valve, bleeding off vapor before it could build to explosive force. The CSB analysis shows a longitudinal crack can relieve pressure without immediate vapor release, cutting blast potential. Outside the fence, chaos unfolded. Fire trucks screamed down empty streets. Residents grabbed phones, filming the plume from porches and driveways. Children asked parents if the world was ending. Officials from the Orange County Fire Authority arrived within minutes, radios crackling with updates no one wanted to hear. Source: OSHA mandates regular inspection of storage tanks and permits the use of remote-operated vehicles for non-intrusive assessment. But that morning, the inspection had been slated for next week. A lab technician at a distant facility watched the pressure readings drop in real time. His screen flashed amber, then green. He exhaled. The tank wasn't failing. It was breathing. How? Why? The answers lay buried in a government standard most folks have never heard of. Source: NFPA 30 outlines requirements for crack monitoring and pressure relief venting to prevent catastrophic failure. It's the silent rulebook for tanks like the one in Garden Grove, rules that turned a 2-inch flaw from a death sentence into a stroke of luck. But luck only matters if you know how to use it. By 7:30 a.m., the town's mayor stood in front of cameras, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "This could have been a tragedy," she said. "Instead, it's a lesson." The question hung in the air like the last wisps of steam. A single fissure, one moment of weakness, and a town that dodged a bullet worth billions. But the story doesn't end there, because what happens next could rewrite the rules for every chemical plant in America, and the people who live beside them deserve to know. Our tale kicks off with a straightforward rule engineers have leaned on for years. A pressure relief valve can mean the gap between a safely contained incident and a full-blown catastrophe. If a storage tank is packed with volatile chemicals, its internal pressure can rise as the temperature climbs or as reactions churn out gases. A deliberately created crack, usually a thin longitudinal split, gives the pressure a way to bleed out without dumping the whole vapor cloud in one go. According to the Chemical Safety Board, a longitudinal crack can relieve pressure without immediate vapor release, reducing blast potential. Source: CSB investigation report. That subtlety is why regulators prefer saying pressure relief options instead of the blunt, just opening a valve. The EPA's Offsite Consequence Analysis Framework demands that any relief plan be weighed for its effect on surrounding neighborhoods. Source: EPA guidance. In real-world terms, the aim is to keep pressure inside the steel shell low enough so that, should a failure happen, the fireball or vapor cloud stays within a predictable radius. To show the physics, we chatted with a chemical engineer who spent years modeling vapor dynamics. "When you make a narrow fissure, the gas escapes in a laminar flow," she said, waving a pen over a diagram. "The flow rate scales with crack width and pressure differential, but because the opening is tiny, the velocity stays subsonic. That means the vapor won't flash into flame the way it would from a full-bore rupture." Her take lines up with NFPA 30, which requires crack monitoring and pressure relief venting to prevent catastrophic failure. Source: NFPA 30 standard. The abstract physics turns concrete in the lab, where a compact remote-operated vehicle, an ROV, is being built. Its chassis is a lightweight aluminum frame equipped with a high-resolution camera, a pressure sensor, and a deployable probe that can slip into a crack without a person stepping inside. OSHA's rules explicitly permit the use of remote-operated vehicles for non-intrusive assessment. Source: OSHA standard, letting the team stay compliant while keeping workers out of the danger zone. During the test run, the ROV's arm gently wedges into a simulated fissure on a mock-up tank. As the probe slides deeper, the onboard sensor logs a pressure drop of only a few psi, just the controlled bleed the engineers are after. The live feed captures the probe's tip lining up with the crack, a tiny silver line against the dark steel. Data packets stream to a laptop, where the crew watches a real-time graph flatten out, confirming the pressure is stabilizing. The footage then cuts to the streets of Garden Grove, where the crack first made headlines. A local newspaper reported a 2-inch crack in a 10-year-old chemical storage tank at a Garden Grove facility, prompting a safety review. Source: Orange County Register. Residents remember that moment, kids playing near the plant, a sudden hush when the alarm blared, and a line of trucks forming a perimeter. On a sun-warmed sidewalk, a longtime resident who asked to stay anonymous tells us why transparency matters. "We've seen companies sweep incidents under the rug," she says. "When a crack appears, we need to know what's being done, how the pressure is being managed, and whether the air we breathe is safe." Her words echo a broader demand. The community wants open safety data, not just the final report after the fact. We also snagged a few quick interviews with local business owners. One shopkeeper whose storefront backs the plant says, "Our livelihood depends on the plant staying open, but we can't risk our family's health." Another neighbor, a retired firefighter, adds, "In the past, the industry's response has been to downplay the risk. We're not asking for miracles, we're asking for the same data the regulators use." These voices highlight a paradox at the story's core. The same tech that can save a town an engineered crack and a remote-operated inspection tool also raises questions about who controls the information. EPA guidance stresses that off-site consequence analysis requires evaluation of tank integrity and pressure relief options to protect nearby communities. Yet the analysis itself often stays locked in agency files. Source: EPA guidance. Back in the lab, the engineers run a final check. The ROV's battery indicator flickers green, the camera's focus sharpens, and the pressure sensor confirms a stable reading. A technician smiles, noting that the prototype has passed its non-intrusive assessment benchmark set by OSHA. Source: OSHA standard. The moment feels like a small victory, but the camera then pulls back to reveal a whiteboard plastered with notes. Community outreach, data release schedule, monitoring plan. The narrative weaves together three strands: the technical justification for a controlled crack, the tangible proof offered by a remotely operated probe, and the human demand for openness. Each piece backs the next. Physics informs design, design enables safe operation, and safe operation fuels the public's call for accountability. As the segment wraps up, we hear a final soundbite from the chemical engineer. "If we can let the pressure out in a measured way, we keep the vapor contained, we keep the town safe, and we keep the trust." The words linger, underscoring that the $12 billion crack is more than a structural fix. It's a test of how industry, regulators, and citizens negotiate safety together. The live stream flickers on, and yeah, you can practically feel the tension kick in as this slender, jointed arm of the ROV eases into the pitch-black gap slicing through the steel wall. The camera's night vision kicks in hard, catching this 2-inch gash running the whole length of the weld, and hey, turns out the Orange County Register nailed the description when they first spotted it that morning. Source: local investigative news. Backstage, the sensors are doing their own little dance. Pressure numbers, dialed into the tiniest fraction of a bar, are climbing right alongside the ROV's slow creep. The EPA's off-site framework isn't messing around either. Those alarms start screaming milliseconds after the spike, basically screaming, "Hey, we need relief options now before the neighbors get hit." Source: EPA guidance. The ROV locks in place, and then whoosh, this manipulator arm slides out with a custom seal shaped just for that crack. You watch this thin polymer ring slip in, pressing against the jagged metal like it's hugging a wound shut. For one long second, the feed goes dead quiet, no whirring, no clanking, just the soft pulse of the ship's pumps. Then, like magic, the pressure numbers start to ease, inching down until the line steadies out. "So here's what the numbers are telling us," the narrator chimes in, voice tight enough to cut glass. "That crack wasn't some runaway disaster waiting to happen, it actually acted like a valve. It let off just enough pressure to keep things from blowing sky high. And yeah, that's exactly what the CSB's report warned could have made a blast way worse if left unchecked." Source: CSB investigation report. And hey, shout out to OSHA's playbook here, those rules on non-invasive inspections when a tank's integrity is shaky. Turns out they were the game changer. The crew dodged a full-on breach by keeping people out of harm's way while this robot did its thing. Pure genius, really. Source: OSHA standard. And FPA 30's got skin in this game too, those standards on crack monitoring and pressure relief vents. They're basically saying the same thing. If you get how a fissure behaves, it can be your safety net instead of a death trap. The seal locked in, the crack did its venting thing, and suddenly the town's got a few extra minutes to breathe easy. Source: NFPA 30 standard. The pressure curve smooths out, sliding right into the green zone set by the EPA's safety margins. The ROV's camera pulls back, and there it is, the seal still holding strong, the crack still visible but no longer a ticking bomb under the floorboards. The feed freezes on that still moment, like the universe hitting pause on all that built-up dread. Without that slow leak doing its thing, the narrator drops and the words hit like a gut punch. This tank would have blown wide open, sending a toxic cloud right into the heart of town. Instead, the crack acted like a valve, the seal plugged the gap, and suddenly the skyline's still standing. One last flash of data hits the screen, pressure drop in the clear, seal locked tight, and every federal and industry rule checked off. The screen fades, leaving you with this one thought: yeah, a crack's an ugly thing, but if you really know what you're looking at, it can be the fix instead of the fire starter. The crack that saved Garden Grove wasn't just a flaw, it became a blueprint. Experts say this controlled release method could rewrite hazardous material protocols worldwide. The CSB's investigation found that a longitudinal crack can relieve pressure without immediate vapor escape, cutting blast risk dramatically. Source: CSB investigation report. But prevention starts before the first fissure appears. OSHA's rules already require non-intrusive tank checks, while NFPA 30 pushes for real-time crack monitoring and pressure venting safeguards. Source: OSHA standard/NFPA 30. For communities still in the dark, transparent data changes everything. Local leaders argue that when residents get clear, accessible safety reports, trust replaces fear. People stop guessing and start acting, says Garden Grove City Safety Liaison. Source: OC Register. The town's slow return isn't just about cleanup, it's about proof. Side-by-side shots show crews dismantling temporary fencing, kids walking past the plant again. Yet beneath the surface, sensors still hum, logging every tremor. This isn't a one-time fix. It's a shift, protocols that listen to physics, communities that demand honesty, and industries that can't hide behind silence. How would you protect your own neighborhood? Drop your ideas below and subscribe for more investigations that